There's this place, an ancient secret, hiding in the middle of nowhere, keeping power hid from man for centuries. A case of discovery by humanity's enemies, locked down in the vault beneath in the gloom, sealed up tight below in North Saloon. There's a treasure so rare and exotic, of everyone you know, well, nobody's got it. Erotic, the toxic feeling it induces, as the power seduces and confuses, reduces mortal men to ashes, with the power so divine that it emanates flashes. None above are concerned as they drink, cause end of the world, well, who would ever think? Nobody ever knowing what lay in store. Soon the first of the four through the front door.
Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world. Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world.
Her name is Aries, she entered and said over 7 feet tall, with a half-shaved head, skin-tight leather covering her body, broadsword on her back, rode up on a Harley, ordering a drink. She calls out for a whiskey. Don't try to get too close, cause she don't get too frisky. Too risky to be too close to her being. If you happen to meet her, I'd suggest you start fleeing. Drop dead gorgeous, compare her to no other, a woman to make men kill one another, cause everywhere she go, people in a slumber, no end to the numbers, brother killing brother. But out of nowhere comes a rank ass smell. The woman downs her whiskey as if she couldn't tell, when all of a sudden the doors burst open. In walks a man and everybody starts choking.
Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world. Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world.
No words, only coughs as he greets, with well-worn sandals on his rotting feet, hair tangled rat's nest of a mess. Most would guess that he's probably just homeless, like a warning fly swarming all around him, from his toes to his head, all dead skin. Valkyrie at the bar nods to acknowledge, pulls out a broadsword and begins to polish. Man orders tequila with a shot of worms, lights up a cigarette then watches it burn. Only then is it plain to see realization that this man is a walking disease, a gruesome image of decay and rot, a living pestilence of infectious thought. But just as some rise to leave, through the same door comes another sight to see.
Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world. Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world.
Of the next person coming, no one would have guessed a teenage girl in an oversized dress. The next one in looking pale and thin, hunger apparent in her wolfish grin. She sat down next to the diseased man, and Zonian looked up and smiled to her friend. The kid was pale, beyond compare. Her hollowed out eyes held a deathly stare. She picked up a menu, took a look with wide eyes. As she trembled at the bar, people thought she might die. Then she asked for a cup, but never filled it up. She smiled at the empty as if it was enough, with skin paper thin, blood veins showing, like a tattooed map of red lines glowing. No one knowing, not the last one to be showing. Should've known with the way this night was going.
Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world. Now is the time for the end, for the end of the world, for the end, for the end, for the end, for the end of the world.
Door never opened, but the slough got cold. The lights went out and silence took hold. When the lights turned on, it wasn't as before. Instead of 3 strangers, now there was 4. Fourth at the bar wore a hoodie and sweats, black shoes, black gloves, and two-tone specs. His face and features hid from view, not a color from a palette, but a different hue. This one beyond the other 3, shadows in his pockets of darkness unseen, like nobility, a dark horse at the bar, with his lesser but effective counterparts. He didn't have to speak, for them to obey, cause it was in their nature to destroy anyway. And so the Pale Rider had finally come, joined up with his posse for a final run.
Now is the time, for the end, for the end of the world. For the end, for the end, for the end,
For the end of the world.
now is the time, for the end, for the end of the world. For the end, for the end, for the end.
Power in their hands as they made their way outside. Each took a seat in a different type of ride. So off they go, clouds and storms trailing. Everywhere they went, thunder and hailing. The bombs fall fast as they drop from above. War and catastrophe, more than enough. Quakes create shocks, starting shifting and splitting. Earth underfoot, give a ripping and quitting. Souls are released from heaven and hell. Two powers converging as the forces swell, releasing smells of sulfur and blood as humanity sinks into war-torn mud. The blood moon rises high up in the sky as the horsemen watch it all finally die. But none will cry, cause only riders are left, and to each of them it's a beautiful mess.
Now is the time, for the end of the world.